Sometimes you just gotta wonder what is supportive for your attention. When you're making decisions, you made a decision to drop in this video, and this video is about making decisions in your life. It is about where you put your attention. Reclaim your attention before deciding what actually deserves it. So we're going to go over the very first premise here. This is a rewire or an update of the 2026 Eisenhower method. This is the mental model video. And the very first thing we're going to go over is a rewired version of the Eisenhower method. The premise is before you decide what is urgent, you have to examine why it feels urgent. The original Eisenhower method helps us sort tasks. That was the whole point and purpose. But because our brains have been completely hijacked by social media, what is happening is people are considering just about everything to be urgent. Because of notifications, the invention of notifications on smartphones is teaching us and training us that everything is equally important, and that is not true. That is a lie. That is what we've been trained to believe. So this version adds a psychological step into it, so this way a person can actually use the Eisenhower method in a 2026 scenario. You can examine why it feels urgent before deciding what actually is. So the first thing you want to do is notice that something is demanding your attention. And this is where you have to consider the idea that not everything is equally important. It's part of prioritization. A notification appears, an email arrives, a message comes in, a deadline approaches, someone asks for something, a news alert appears, because of course everybody considers this to be the utmost important. It becomes the next distraction. A calendar reminder appears, right? You noticed the demand for your attention. You have to consider what is a higher value than the other thing. If it's an email for work, does that take priority over the news? Yes, that is true. Most people would say otherwise because their brain gets hooked up in the dramas of the world and falls into the narratives of what's going on. So you got to notice the demand for your attention, because your attention is being requested. You do not have to give it immediate attention. That's the thing. You can give the news attention, but it doesn't have to be immediate. You have to prioritize it over something else. When we're dealing with productivity, we want to live productively. We want to be productive, and we're going to have to weigh out which one actually comes in. The arrival of information does not automatically create a priority. And we've been fooled to believe that everything is a priority now. And that is simply not true. We've been trained. So we ask the question. The question is, we examine the feeling of urgency before we actually respond to it. Why does this feel urgent? Is there a real consequence if I wait? You have to ask yourself that. Is this important to my goals? You have to ask yourself that. If someone else's urgency, is someone else's urgency becoming mine? Am I reacting because I'm anxious? That's the thing. Urgency is a feeling that deserves examination. You have to ask yourself, what are the consequences of doing or not doing? That's why I say to people all the time on my channel, there is a cost to doing and not doing. And that's where you have to ask the question and decide what the cost of something actually is. Am I afraid of missing something? Am I responding because I was trained to check immediately? A notification can interrupt your attention, but it cannot decide your priority. It has trained us. The technology of notifications has trained us that everything is a priority. If you ask me how many notifications I have on my phone, only one, and that is strictly banking. All other notifications are off. And people say, how can you live like that? I check when I want to check, not when the system tells me. And that's just me personally. I don't expect you to do that, but that's what I do. That's how I understand it. And you know what? Everything gets equal attention because I set a time of day and I go in there and take a peek. Not a big deal. So let's go over the next one of sorting. When you use the Eisenhower method, the traditional method is You first think about what you have to do, the real deadline today, the serious problem that requires immediate attention. If your electric is going to be shut off, that's something that requires attention. Is it time sensitive? Yes, it's the electric bill. It's going to be a shut off. You're going to get a shut off notice. You have to be able to do it, right? And then when we look at the schedule, we can schedule it. Okay, if this is health, it's important, but it's not urgent. We do have to schedule it for the morning to have good health, exercise, long-term projects, learning, career development. These are important, not urgent. And again, you could adjust these. Creative work, relationships, they're important. They're important. It only needs your urgency if someone got hurt, right? You have to be able to weigh things out as to, this is all about your values and where you put your values, how you value things. Planning, rest and recovery. What matters most often does not demand attention loudly. Protect important work before everything fills the calendar. So you can do and you can schedule, or you can delegate. So if you know somebody that can help you, if it's urgent and less important, you can start to delegate. This is where you have self-leadership. You can lead yourself, and you can also collaborate with others to help you. Make requests that someone else can actually handle. Routine administrative work, tasks that do not require your specific skills, and urgency does not automatically mean you personally have to do it. Now, a lot of times when we are dealing with everything being urgent, because that's where we are nowadays, notifications have hijacked us, that everything is urgent, we can remove the things that are not urgent, not important. So these are 4 buckets, and you can put this on your wall and take your own post-it notes and throw them in there. You can say, okay, these are the things I have to do, throw them here, look at how, ask yourself, is this urgent and important? Good, put it in the do box. Is this important and not urgent? Good, put it in the schedule box. Is this urgent and less important? Put it in the delegate box. Find somebody to help you. And can you remove it? Is it not urgent or not important? People have gotten more and more confused with prioritization due to the fact of anxiety, overthinking, and treating everything like an emergency. And that's why this is being updated. Check your state. You have to consider the emotional state you're in because of the fact that if you are stressed out and in survival mode, that will stop your awareness. So are you overwhelmed? Are you anxious? Are you avoiding something difficult? Am I trying to make someone else happy? Am I looking for an easy task? Am I afraid of making the wrong decision? Am I checking because I'm expecting something new? Check your mental and emotional state because it helps you choose what you wish to do. Sometimes productivity becomes a way to avoid the task that matters most. An easy activity can feel productive while important work remains untouched. This happens a lot. People go on their phone and say, I'm going to go search for a new car. And they go on their phone for 3 hours, get totally distracted, wind up watching cat videos, and somehow the car that they were supposed to go buy is now an afterthought. 5 hours goes by. You got to notice the reason behind the action and become more self-aware. Now, when it comes down to, once you've checked your state, you turn the decision into a useful action. What is the next useful action? Open the document, write the first paragraph, make the phone call, take the walk, send the message, schedule the appointment, ask for help. That's part of the delegation. Start the project, turn off unnecessary notifications. If it's not important, get rid of it. I'll tell you, you'd be surprised how my life has changed. My life has changed dramatically when I had notifications for everything versus none. I don't even have badges turned on my icons. And you know what? I'm very happy. I'm personally happy. I can't expect everybody else to believe or fall in line with that same idea. I can only speak from my own experience and share what I've experienced. You do not need to solve everything at once. You need to decide what deserves your next action. You have to consider what deserves your next action, because not everything deserves your action evenly. So when you're dealing with this, we have to be able to look at the big picture. So the original method still works. The urgent plus important, the important and not urgent, the urgent and less important, not urgent, not important. The method still works. The modern problem is our sense of urgency is constantly being stimulated. The overthinking is more abundant now. I've seen more people with anxiety, overthinking, and depression than I have in the past 20 or 30 years. So the Eisenhower gets an update from me from reaction to deliberate priority. The old sequence was, you got notified, you reacted, your attention was clear, awesome, you took action. Nowadays, it changes. You got a notification, something, you get an email from work. Now you have to notice, okay, where does this fit? You question it, you prioritize it, and then you take the action. So the Eisenhower needed a remix, and I was the person to do it. The goal is not to eliminate notifications. The goal is to stop notifications from automatically controlling our attention. So we have to be able to rewire the response. Okay, rewire the response. We rewire the response by understanding the old habit was something arrived and you responded. And that's what happened. But now we have to decide what deserves your attention. The new habit is something arrives. You have to now evaluate. You have to choose the appropriate action. And everything that arrives does not deserve an immediate response. And information that you receive is not instruction. You don't always have to dive on it because you got a notification from someone on Snapchat or something wild like that. Why modern life feels so demanding is because we are getting every piece of information thrown at us, right? It's competing for our attention. Social media, text messages, app badges. And app badges for me are turned off along with notifications. And you know what? I'm a lot happier and I get a ton of stuff done. Each sign or a piece of information is competing for your attention. So with every signal feeling important, the mind has difficulty establishing any priority. So the solution is not to respond faster. The solution is to make better decisions about what deserves attention. So the result can feel like constant unfinished business when everything that comes in feels like it's competing. So what do? This is the rewire for the Eisenhower. Notice what's asking for your attention. Question, why does it feel urgent? Sort it. Get sorted. Sort it on paper. Sort it on a mark and whiteboard, on your device, whatever the case may be. Where does it belong? Check what is influencing your response and move to what the next useful action actually is. So the final principle of this whole entire thing, the one thing to remember is you cannot control everything that enters your attention. You can decide what receives your attention. Don't treat everything like a priority. Notice, question, sort it, check it, and then move to the next step. Don't let the nonsense and the world's interruptions become your priorities, because that's what everybody else is doing, and they're leading very unproductive, unfulfilled lives. Keep in mind, we don't have to be productive all the time, but there is a point where if we are productive, we can make things happen. Why is productivity necessary in our lives? Because everything in our reality is maintenance. And part of that maintenance is the work. It's being productive. Housework, house cleaning, doing things at work, whatever the case may be. Don't forget to like, subscribe. This is Mario Leone, the Voices of Victory. This was the Eisenhower Method Rewired for 2026.